Auburn made some noise during the dead period, and on Monday, the Tigers landed a commitment from elite cornerback Devin Williams, but I got a feeling Hugh Freeze has more coming. In this video, I got Auburn recruiting expert Jeffrey Leon to talk about the priorities now that Devin Williams is on board. But first, Tiger fans, you got to do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. I love talking Auburn recruiting. We're going to do it all off season, so hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on my guy, Jeffrey Lee of Auburn Live. Now, the commitment of Devin Williams puts the Tigers at number 8 in the On3 team rankings, currently sitting with 9 commitments, so there's a lot of room to add more, and there is more coming. Auburn spring priorities, let's take a look at them. We'll start at the top with offensive tackle Travaris Dice out of Fairburn, Georgia, 6'6", 275. Even though he's located in the state of Georgia, I kind of feel like this is a Gator-Tiger battle right here. Is that how it's setting up?
I think that's fair, Josh.
So where do you think that the Tigers stand? What are your sources saying on this one? I think when it came to offensive linemen, Auburn probably got the better of Florida in 2024. Can they keep it going in 2025?
Offensive line is going to be a huge position of need for Auburn in this 2025 class. Travaris Dice at or near the top of their wish list for an offensive tackle. They've managed to get him on campus several times. I think the most important visit was probably the last one right before the dead period, where he not only came, but he brought his family with him. I think that was very big for him, very big for his family. And, we've been doing this a long time, Josh. When a kid is serious about a school, he wants to see mama. He wants mama to see it and wants her to approve. And I think that's kind of what this visit, just reading the tea leaves, kind of felt like. Cole Pinkston, our recruiting expert there at Auburn Live, has been all over this one. He feels very good about Travaris Dice to Auburn. Travaris had set his commitment. He was going to make it in the fall, and then he moved it up. He was going to make it in the summer. And then after this last visit, he said, I think I'm going to be ready in March. So he's probably at the top of the board for Auburn when it comes to that commit watch.
Yeah, and obviously a position need. Auburn always trying to recruit those trenches, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Now, another intriguing name, one of the more intriguing names this spring is QB Julian Longstreet out of California. He's a 4-star prospect, and he has a visit set up with Auburn in March. What are your sources saying on where Auburn stands right now, and who do you think is the biggest competition here?
Surprisingly, Longstreet announced the top group back in early November, and Auburn wasn't mentioned, and then Auburn offered, I think it was November the 21st. And they have slowly crept up his list, and Auburn's been increasing its attention, its pressure on him, and it seems to be paying off. They're going to get him for that cross country trip, March the 23rd. He's going to bring his family along with him. I feel like, and from even talking to On3 Simmons, that Auburn's really, really in the picture here. Yeah. Texas A&M is also in there. He visited A&M back in February. I think he's going to try to visit them again. But Auburn would like to they've got their foot in the door. They'd like to kick it open a little bit. And I think that visit on March the 23rd is going to be big. Going out to California and getting a quarterback, at least for Auburn, is not something we've seen a lot in the past. So this is kind of new territory for Auburn fans. And Hugh Freeze has been able to do that at Ole Miss. And he's trying to do it here at Auburn. I think Auburn's got a pretty good shot, depending on how that visit goes. But getting him in and keep cracking that door open a little bit will go a long ways in trying to get him in this class.
Who do you feel like Auburn's battling here for Longstreet?
A&M. I really do. I think, Chaz Simmons certainly is plugged in here as well, and I defer to him. But I feel like Auburn's kind of got their eyes set on a battle with A&M right now.
All right. Now, we can't talk quarterbacks without mentioning Julian Lewis. Who do you think Auburn's in a better spot with? Julian Lewis out of Carrollton, Georgia, or Julian Longstreet out of California?
Believe it or not, Josh, even though Hussein hasn't visited Auburn, I really feel like Auburn's chances with him might be a little bit more. If I were doing a quarterback hot board for Auburn, I'd probably have him a little bit above Juju, only because there's so many other, competitors when it comes to Juju Lewis. He's committed to USC. Certainly, Georgia's not going anywhere. A lot of other schools in the SEC are fighting for Juju. Now, Auburn was able to get him on campus before the dead period. They're scheduled to get him back March the 16th. I don't ever count out Hugh Freeze when it comes to quarterbacks. But with that being said, even though Longstreet hasn't visited, I'd still probably lean a little bit there just because I'm stepping back and I'm trying to take these, the orange and blue glasses off.
Sure.
So I would tend to lean towards Longstreet there over Lewis, but ask me again in a couple of weeks and I might say something different.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same on Lewis and Auburn. I think that there's 5 or 6 teams that are legitimately in on Julian Lewis, and I think Auburn's one of them. But of those 5 or 6 teams, they're probably on the outside looking in a little bit compared to maybe Georgia, USC, Alabama, maybe even Colorado. So Auburn, he's a priority to get him on campus this spring. We'll see what happens. I don't think Julian Lewis is any rush to make a decision. Moving down the list, one is linebacker Eric Winters, position need, and one of the most talented prospects in the state of Alabama, ranked number 93 overall in the country. How much of a priority is Winters for Auburn this early in the cycle?
Absolutely top priority for Auburn. They identified him early, have been on him a lot since before his junior season. Even this new staff, Josh Alders has been on him, listed as a defensive back, but Auburn likes him at that linebacker spot. They want him to move down and play in the front 7. He's been to Auburn several times. It's right down the road in Enterprise, and those relationships have been built. He knows how big of a priority he is. He's very comfortable on campus. He's visited again, like I said, several times, and he'll be back several times. We expect him back in March. And he's a guy who hasn't really put a timeline or at least a specific timeline on it, but I think he wants to get it done spring, summer. So he's certainly another guy that we're keeping an eye on when it comes to a potential commitment.
All right. Now, speaking of potential commitment, when Micah Dubose decommitted from Georgia, he's from Mobile, Alabama, and when he decommitted from Georgia about 8 weeks ago, I thought it was maybe a matter of weeks, maybe days until he committed to Auburn. But now I'm seeing picks going in on the recruiting prediction machine for LSU. What's going on with Micah Dubose and Auburn? Is Auburn slipping?
Yeah, I think they're slipping. Obviously the buzz there with LSU. But the reason everybody was thinking, including yourself, Josh, and myself, is because when Micah Dubose decommitted, he wasn't shy about saying where Auburn stood. I mean, Auburn was number 1. He left the Iron Bowl back in November. He was still committed to Georgia, but he was basically saying Auburn's number 1 for me right now. So when he did decommit, it was easy to instinctively think that Auburn was the team to beat. And I think for a time there they were. I think a trip down to LSU might have changed some things. But it's hard for me to say right now where Micah Dubose stands on Auburn's board. I know he's kind of a tweener. He's listed. He could maybe play offensive tackle. He might be better suited in interior. So I'm curious to see how much Auburn pushes here. Mm-hmm. I feel like he's still a top target for Auburn. I'm not trying to make any excuses here for them, but I would be curious to see where he stands on the board and how hard Auburn pushes. But I do think Auburn would absolutely take this kid. Absolutely wants this kid, and. But LSU's got a little bit of that national buzz. We'll see if Auburn pushes to get some of that back.
You got to assume that they're going to get him on campus in March or April, right?
Absolutely.
That's got to be a priority there. So speaking of big visit weekends, we're about to come out of the dead period. We got less than a week here. When can Auburn fans expect the next big visit weekend on the Plains coming out of the dead period?
Big weekends. Okay, so you're looking at March the 16th. You're looking at March the 23rd. Those are going to be big weekends for Auburn. Typically during the spring on those Saturdays, you see Auburn move inside the stadium. They'll hold maybe a half scrimmage. They'll do some scrimmage there. They want kids there to see that. March the 16th is probably going to be that first big scrimmage visit day. Julian Lewis is expected to come in that day, top quarterback target. Zion Grady is expected to visit that day, top edge target. Andrew Maddox, the top defensive line target. He's from Mississippi. He's coming back for Auburn that day. Devin Williams is coming in that day. So at least 4 of those four top recruits, and arguably the top at each position. Devin Williams at cornerback, Andrew Maddox at defensive line, Juju at quarterback, and Zion Grady at the edge. So there's 4 top targets at each position expected to visit already. And, we're still 2.5, 3 weeks away from there.
Whew. Well, this spring and summer is going to be hot on the recruiting trail for Hugh Freeze and his staff. Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Live, you guys do a great job of covering recruiting and the team. You guys should all go check it out. Appreciate you dropping by the Inside Scoop today.
Absolutely, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel, and also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.